that what we think and feel does affect our body. And they talked about brain scans. That brain scans show that when we imagine something, imagine an event, the thoughts that we have towards that event lights up the areas in our mind, in our brains, that have to do with the event itself. We are magnificent, creative individuals. The point here is, what is the point? During this month, we try to show, do not cave into the loss of keys. Do not cave into any perception that something's got power over you. Get a life and know that you're an eternal being with creative powers, and none of these creative events that we've created has any power whatsoever over. I like the Little League story. I know some of you may have heard the Little League story of perception. Anybody remember it? Good. I'm glad you don't. I asked Della about it, and she didn't remember it, so I thought, oh boy. Anyway, this kid was in Little Leagues, and his dad wanted to go and see him play. So he goes over to where the team's having the game. And he sees his son sitting there with other mates. And he walks up to his son, he says, how's it going, son? And the kid says, it's a wonderful game, I'm having a good time, it's really wonderful, it's been exciting. And the dad says, well, what's the score? And the boy says, it's 14-0 in their favor. And the dad says, my gosh, 14-0. How could it possibly be a wonderful game and you're having a good time? It was 14-0. He says, Dad, would you relax and stop being so negative? He said, we haven't been up to bat yet. I'm running out of time. I hate looking at the clock, you know. I want to talk about gullibility for a minute and then we'll close. We're so gullible, aren't we? We are so gullible. We accept all this stuff, and I'm one of them. Yeah, Steve's agreeing with me. Anyway, the height of an April Fool's Day gullibility story had to do with something that happened in 1957. I wrote it out here. That BBC News, they had a news show called Panorama. And so what they said was that due to the mild winter we had, the elimination of the dreaded spaghetti weevil has been accomplished. It no longer exists. And therefore, the Swiss farmers are having a bumper crop of spaghetti. And it also showed all these people the peasants, pulling spaghetti off this tree. And people bought into that. And so they started getting these calls saying, how can I get a spaghetti tree? Hundreds of calls. And of course they diplomatically responded and said, well, take a spig of spaghetti and put it in a can of tomato juice and let's see what happens. And then the last one, I'm going to close with this one, it's kind of cool. That Burger King came out in 1997. Some of you may remember this. Burger King came out with an April Fool's story as well. And it said, we have a brand new sandwich, and we're going to call it, it's going to be a left-handed Whopper. And we're making this specifically for the 32 million people in Americas who are left-handed. Now the ingredients will be the same. There will be lettuce and tomato and onions and the patty. However, we're going to rotate the ingredients 180 degrees. 180 degrees to accommodate the people who are left-handed. And so later on, they had a news release showing that this was an April Fool's hoax. But in spite of that, he said they had thousands of people going into the restaurant asking for the new left-handed Whopper. And he said, and many others who asked for the right-handed Whopper. So in closing, we can say this month of transformation and renewal has to do with changing our perception so that our perception really qualifies for really the truth of our being and not some fantasy. And say it loud and clear. Yes. We're done with this.